Wonderful to have you here. Great to start this conversation and kickstart this gray Thursday. Is it Wednesday? It's Thursday, I guess.
It's Thursday. It's
losing
also
track,
gray in Nairobi. Good
lose,
morning.
losing track of time and space. So we wanted to have a really nice chat, just to understand um, maybe the things that we're working on, and also to understand things that your area of expertise lies in, and talk about some of the challenges that you see in the space of policy making, as well as challenges that public organizations face when it comes to facilitation or problem solving. So yeah, that's what we're looking at today. Maybe starting with uh, your um, your specific area of work. How would you describe what you do?
Wow. I trained as an architect. So when many people ask me, did you throw out your architecture degree? I tell them, no, actually, rather than design buildings, I design conversations and I design processes.
Wow.
I focus a lot on collaborative processes, getting people to work together, especially people who have things that they don't agree about. So I really enjoy working in processes where we have to start from the unknown and build trust and build community and then be able to determine joint objectives. A lot of my work is in international cooperation, multinational initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
And my main focus is on reducing inequality, supporting the development, and strengthening multilateralism, especially multilateral organizations.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. I'm also a reformed engineer, so completely connect with
welcome to the club.
yeah, how you started your career also. And I think we never lose that element, right? It's always there, and I think it really helps us in some ways subconsciously too. So yeah,
Mhm.
very nice. And what are you working on right now? Is there something that you can share?
Wow, I guess lots of interesting one of the things I love about my job right now is that I can have lots of interesting projects going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a dialogue process on the circular economy that I'm supporting jointly with you, and that's really very interesting and exciting. And I'm learning a lot of things about circular economy I didn't know about. I'm also working right now on strengthening regulatory reform in the pharmaceutical sector in the East African community, but also in the South African development community. And that's also
Mm-hmm.
different kind of policy issue, uh, different level of multilateral cooperation. Very interesting also to see the differences between Southern Africa and Eastern Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And very close to my heart, I'm working on the question of social innovation in Africa, and so much more looking at it from the position of a transformation catalyst, what we need to do to make the system more efficient, more effective.
Mm-hmm.
How can we connect people better? How can we achieve better results?
Real cool. And I really like the fact that we're in this space where it's sort of overlapping facilitation with transformation, engaging with public organizations or governmental organizations, or also quasi-governmental organizations, and seeing how we can help them either solve problems or move
Mhm.
them, or help them converge better towards solutions that they normally wouldn't have thought about. And this is for me really the exciting part. How would you describe this work that we do? Like, I think the biggest challenge I also have most of the time is
Mhm.
either explaining this to my parents, or say explaining it to a 14-year-old. Most of the times they are like, "Yeah, like that's a lot of words, but I still don't get it." So how would
A
you?
lot of a lot of words, but it's not English.
Yeah, exactly. It fails to be English at some point.
I have
So
both
how would you
ends
do
of the
that?
spectrum. Can you
Mhm.
imagine that? I have my parents who I think
Okay.
at some point my dad one day gathered the courage and asked me, what exactly do you do? And I could see the concern in his mind, like, what is my daughter doing something legal, or is
It's
she
too
now
late,
finally
Dad.
in the spy world? Like what the hell is she doing? And on the other end, I have my son who also, he's like, what's that you're discussing now, mom? So I guess I have a bit more practice at answering that question in that sense.
Uh-huh.
Um, I like to think that what we do is try and create a space or a platform where people can bring diverse views to the table. And especially looking at as communities and societies move more towards democratization and more having an interest in having diversity and equity in conversations and dialogues, bringing the voices that tend to be marginalized, giving them space at the table, making them audible. I like to think of my work kind of in that perspective, like whose voice is not at this table, how do we bring it in, either by me as a facilitator embodying it, or by including a participant who comes from that space, or designing the format so that they would be able to contribute, because again, we know a lot of different things play in the capacity of people to contribute, ranging from whether they're introverts or extroverts to the whole issue of what's being discussed. And sometimes in policy discussions, there's a lot of language, but it's not English.
Absolutely.
And for people who are outsiders, if you're maybe from private sector or you're from civil society, you're sitting there wondering, what are all these bureaucrats talking about? So how to make it inclusive and engaging is a big part of it.
No, I really love the way you describe it, that, bringing that voice to the table and giving people that voice. I think that really resonates with me too. And it's so impactful. Great. I think, now that we've spoken a little bit about what it is that we're working on, maybe the next point would be to probably highlight an example. I think I can think of the most recent.
I think it was very commendable that the support unit was then asking the two key questions, which are how do we build sustainability into contracts, and especially infrastructure contracts, but also contracts in the extractive sector, because they tend to be long-lasting contracts. They have long lifespans. They tend to have impact over the long term rather than short term. And so if we don't build sustainability in them at the negotiation and agreement phase, it's very hard to change it when they're already in implementation stage. So what I liked about that was they were asking, how do we build in sustainability into the negotiation and signing of those contracts? And having the online collaboration platform speaks to both of those different styles. So the people who could hear, who can process things audibly were okay because we were talking, but the people who need to see things were okay because then there was something happening in front of them, which is typically when you have online meetings, either you have long webinars where people just speak and panel discussions and so on, where people just speak and people don't see anything, and then you don't engage more than the auditory senses. And at some point, people lose the capacity to understand what's being discussed, or to make a mental image of what's being discussed, or vice versa also, which could be that you could have a visual platform, and if you didn't have the audio, it would also be a disaster. So having that mix for me would be the takeaway, that think about it in the sense that human beings have different ways of engaging with knowledge and of processing